I shouldn't have been there. At least, that's what everyone would have said if they'd seen me. But when I saw her lights still on through the kitchen window, I couldn't help myself. Her house was too quiet for that hour. My place next door felt even quieter. And maybe that's why my steps carried me to her back door instead of my own. She was leaning over the counter when I saw her, hair loose for once instead of tied in that no-nonsense knot. A mug of tea sat untouched beside her elbow, the steam already fading. She looked older than usual. No, not older, just tired. Like she'd been holding something heavy all day and only now let herself put it down. I should have left. Instead, I tapped on the glass. She startled, her shoulders stiffened, and when she turned, her eyes narrowed at me in that way that always made me feel 15 again, caught somewhere I shouldn't be. "Daniel," she said, opening the door only a crack. "You're not supposed to be here." And I heard myself answer soft but steady. "Then pretend you didn't see me." The words sounded braver than I felt. For a long beat, she just looked at me. Her lips parted like she was going to tell me to leave, but she didn't. She let the silence stretch instead, the only sound the faint ticking of the wall clock behind her. Finally, she pushed the door open wider. I stepped inside. Her kitchen smelled faintly of lemon cleaner, sharp but comforting. She crossed her arms, almost like she was trying to make a barrier between us, though the way her fingers tugged at her sleeve betrayed the nerves she was hiding. "Why are you here?" she asked. I should have had a good reason. Something logical, respectable. But all I managed was, "I couldn't sleep." Her eyes softened just enough to undo me. She shook her head with a little exhale that might have been a laugh, might have been disbelief. "You're too young to be haunted by anything." "That's not true," I said, maybe too quickly. Her gaze lingered on me, longer than it should have. She tilted her head, studying my face like she was searching for something, some trace of the boy she'd watched grow up, maybe, or something else entirely. My chest felt too tight under the weight of her attention. I looked away first. My eyes landed on her mug still full. "You didn't drink your tea." She glanced at it, then at me again. "It got cold. Maybe you just forgot to drink it," I said. Her lips curved barely, like she almost wanted to smile but stopped herself in time. She turned her back, reaching for the kettle. "You shouldn't talk to me like that," she murmured. But I noticed she didn't tell me to leave. The kettle hissed softly as she refilled it. I stood there, awkward, trying to look like I wasn't memorizing the shape of her shoulders under that thin cardigan, or the way her hands trembled slightly when she set the kettle back down. "Sit," she said without looking at me. So I sat. The chair creaked louder than it should have. The air between us felt too tight, like a string pulled to breaking point. When she finally turned back, 2 mugs in her hands, she paused. For a moment, she didn't move, just looked at me like she was seeing something dangerous. Or maybe like she was afraid I saw her. She set 1 mug in front of me. Her fingers brushed mine, brief, nothing intentional. But neither of us pulled away quickly enough. Her hand stilled on the edge of the mug. My breath caught. "Daniel," she said, my name barely more than a whisper. And that was the moment everything changed. Her hand lingered on the edge of the mug, warm against my skin for a second longer than necessary. That second stretched. I knew she felt it too, because her fingers tightened before she pulled away. She stepped back, cleared her throat, tried for normal. "Careful, it's hot." But I wasn't thinking about the tea. The kitchen light above us buzzed faintly, the kind of sound you only notice when a room is too quiet. She turned to the counter, busying herself with sugar, with spoons, with anything to keep her back to me. I couldn't stop watching her. It wasn't just that she was beautiful, it was the little things. The way the loose strands of her hair brushed the line of her jaw. The way she pressed her lips together when she thought too hard. The cardigan slipping from one shoulder, as though even the fabric couldn't quite keep hold of her. She looked untouchable, and yet here I was. "You really shouldn't be here," she said again, softer this time, almost like she was talking to herself. "Then why'd you let me in?" I asked. That made her pause. She set the spoon down with a sharp clink and turned, leaning against the counter with her arms folded tight. "Because you knocked." "That's not an answer." Her eyes flicked to mine, and there was something unguarded in them, a crack in her usual composure. She broke eye contact first. "I just got out of something messy," she said after a moment. Her voice was low, heavy. "I don't want people knowing how alone I feel. And if the neighbors if anyone sees you here, you think I'd tell?" She gave a humorless laugh. "It's not about you telling. It's about them thinking." There it was, that invisible wall between us. Not built from what we were doing, but from what it looked like we were doing. The age difference, the whispers, the assumptions. But none of that stopped the truth humming under my skin. I wanted to stay. I wanted to stay because she didn't look like the untouchable woman everyone else saw. She looked fragile. Like she hadn't been touched, really touched, in a long time. "You deserve better than sitting here alone with cold tea," I said quietly. Her lips parted, but she didn't speak right away. She just stared at me, like she was trying to decide whether I was naive or reckless, or maybe both. Finally, she whispered, "You notice too much." The words cut closer than she probably meant them to. I wanted to tell her I'd always noticed, the small things, the hidden ones, but I bit my tongue. The silence between us thickened until I thought it would choke me. And then she moved. She walked around the table, slow, deliberate. Her cardigan's sleeve brushed my shoulder as she passed behind me, and I swear she hesitated there, like deciding whether to stop. When she finally came into view again, she rested her hand on the table, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating. "Don't go yet," she said. I looked up at her. Her eyes wouldn't let me go. And before I could stop myself, my mouth betrayed me. I almost told her exactly what I'd been thinking since the second she opened that door. Almost. Her words, "Don't go yet," hung in the air like smoke I couldn't wave away. I should have said no. I should have stood up, walked out the back door, pretended this was nothing but an odd, late-night visit. But instead I stayed. She sat across from me this time, closer than before. The table between us suddenly felt too narrow, like if either of us leaned forward just a little, we'd cross into something we couldn't undo. Her hand toyed with the rim of her mug. Mine clenched around mine too tightly, as if gripping porcelain could keep me grounded. "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable," she said finally. "You didn't," I said too quickly. Her eyes lifted, sharp, questioning. "Then what?" I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I had words, plenty of them, but not the kind I could say out loud. Not without changing everything. She leaned back, studying me in that way that always made me feel transparent. Like she could see the things I tried to bury. "You remind me of someone," she murmured. "Who?" Her gaze drifted past me, into some memory I couldn't reach. "Someone who used to look at me the way you're looking at me now." I swallowed hard. My heart beat too loud for such a quiet kitchen. Before I could respond, her phone buzzed on the counter behind her. The sound was jarring, sharp, unwanted. She froze. Neither of us moved until it buzzed again. She turned, glanced at the screen. Her expression shifted, tightened, before she silenced it with one tap. No answer, no explanation. I wanted to ask who was that. But I didn't. The air told me not to. Instead, when she came back to the table, I heard myself whisper, "You don't have to be alone tonight." The words landed heavier than I meant. She blinked, startled, and for the first time I saw her guard slip completely. Her lips trembled. Just barely. She reached for her mug, but her fingers missed, brushing the table instead. When she pulled her hand back, it brushed mine by accident, or maybe not. The contact was nothing and everything. A second too long. Too deliberate in its hesitation. I pulled my hand back like I'd touched fire. Tried to laugh it off, but the sound caught in my throat. Sorry. Her eyes didn't leave mine. Don't be. That undoing came fast, like a thread pulled from the seam. All the reasons I'd told myself this was wrong seemed to scatter on the floor between us, useless. I leaned forward without meaning to. She did too, almost imperceptibly. The space between us shrank to a breath. And then, a knock rattled against the back door. We both jerked apart. My chest heaved like I'd run miles. Her face went pale. She stood quickly, smoothing her cardigan like nothing had happened, though her hands shook as she reached for the doorknob. She glanced at me over her shoulder, voice barely above a whisper. Don't move. The knock echoed again, sharper this time. She hesitated with her hand on the doorknob, shoulders drawn tight. Whoever it was, she didn't want them to see me here. Her voice cut the air in a whisper. Stay out of sight. I froze, every instinct telling me to step into the shadows of her hallway, to vanish into the silence like I'd never been there. But I didn't move. She cracked the door open just enough. A neighbor's voice filtered in, an older woman's. Just checking in. Saw your light on late. You all right? Her laugh sounded too bright, too practiced. I'm fine. Couldn't sleep. Thanks for asking. A few more pleasantries, a good night, and the door clicked shut. She leaned against it for a moment, her breath unsteady. When she turned, her eyes landed on me, and she didn't bother pretending anymore. You see why this can't happen, she whispered. But she didn't tell me to leave. I stood slowly, the chair scraping against the floor. My pulse pounded in my ears. Then why am I still here? Her lips parted, but no sound came. She pressed a hand to her temple, like she could push the conflict back inside where it belonged. Because you don't know what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing, I said, the words harsher than I meant. I stepped closer, stopping just short of her. I notice things about you no one else sees. The way you hold everything together for everyone else, but let it fall apart when you're alone. The way you keep your sleeves long because you hate your hands shaking. The way you... I stopped myself, breath ragged. Her eyes shimmered, the weight of what I'd said pressing into her. Daniel! The sound of my name from her lips nearly undid me. She shook her head, almost pleading. You're too young to what? To see you? To want you? Her silence was louder than any denial. I didn't touch her. Not yet. But I was close enough to see the way her chest rose and fell too quickly, close enough to see the tears she refused to let fall. You'll regret this, she said finally, her voice breaking. Maybe, I whispered. But not tonight. The clock on the wall ticked, each second louder than the last. She didn't step back. I didn't either. Her hand hovered at her side, trembling. Then, slowly, so slow it felt like torture, she reached out, fingertips brushing my arm. It was barely a touch, but it ripped the air open between us. We stood there, locked in a silence so heavy it pressed against my chest. Her eyes met mine, wide, unguarded, searching for something neither of us could name. And then, in the smallest, rawest voice I'd ever heard from her, she asked, What are we doing? Her question, what are we doing, still rang in the air when she stepped back, hands slipping from my arm like it burned her. The sudden distance made my chest ache, like I'd lost something I hadn't even had yet. She turned away, bracing herself against the counter. "This isn't just about you and me," she said, voice low, steadying. "You don't understand." "Then explain it." Silence. Her shoulders rose and fell as though the weight pressing down on them might break her spine. When she finally spoke, the words were different from what I expected. "I knew your father." I blinked. "What?" She turned slowly, eyes heavy with something that looked like regret. "Years ago. Before he married your mother. We were close. Too close." The air drained out of the room. You knew him?" My voice cracked. "And you never said anything?" Her eyes dropped to the floor. "It was nothing. A long time ago. He chose his life, and I built mine. But when you showed up next door, Daniel..." She cut herself off, pressing a hand to her mouth. Pieces fell together in my head, jagged and uneven. The familiarity I'd felt around her. The way she looked at me sometimes, startled, like she saw a ghost. "You see him in me." She didn't deny it. The silence that followed was unbearable. My fists clenched at my sides. "So all this time, you've been pushing me away because of him? Not because of me?" Her voice trembled when she said, "It's both." Anger and longing clashed inside me, impossible to separate. I wanted to walk out, slam the door behind me, never look back. But instead, I found myself stepping closer again, defying the space she tried to rebuild. "I'm not him," I said, each word sharp, desperate. "I'm not my father." Her eyes met mine, wide and wet, and for the first time I saw something break inside her. "No," she whispered. "You're not. That's what makes this worse." The confession cut through me, raw and undeniable. She wasn't resisting because she didn't feel something, she was resisting because she did. The tension snapped like a wire pulled too far. My voice came out rough. "Then stop pretending." For one suspended second, I thought she would. She leaned toward me, breath shallow, lips parting as if ready to surrender everything she'd been holding back. And then, her phone buzzed again, loud and insistent, vibrating against the counter like it demanded to be heard. She flinched, pulled back. This time she grabbed it, answering with a voice too quick, too controlled. "Hello? Yes. I'm fine. No, it's nothing. I'll call you back." She hung up, set the phone down, but her hands shook. We stared at each other across the kitchen, either of us moving, either of us able to undo what had just been said. Finally, in a voice that carried more weight than any touch, she whispered, "What happens if we don't stop?" Her words, "What happens if we don't stop?" hung in the kitchen like smoke that refused to clear. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "Maybe we don't want to stop." Her lips parted, but no sound came. She looked at me as if I'd said the one thing she'd been fighting not to hear. "You don't know what you're asking," she whispered. "Yes, I do." I stepped closer, my voice shaking now, not from fear but from everything I couldn't hold back anymore. "I'm asking you to stop treating me like a mistake you haven't made yet. I'm standing here, right in front of you, and all you can see is regret." Her eyes glistened. She pressed her palms flat against the counter, grounding herself like the room was spinning. "You think this is easy for me?" "That I don't." She cut herself off, biting down on the words. "Don't what?" I pushed. Her silence was answer enough. And then she broke. Not loudly, not with tears or drama, but with the smallest collapse of her voice. "I don't want to lose myself in something I can't keep." I stood there stunned. The honesty was sharper than any rejection. She wasn't pushing me away because she didn't feel it. She was pushing me away because she did. Slowly, I reached for her hand. This time, I didn't let her pull back. My thumb brushed over her trembling knuckles. "Then don't keep it. Just have it. Have me. Right now." No promises. No pretending it doesn't exist. Her breath caught, shallow and uneven. For a moment, she let her hand stay in mine. The world outside didn't matter. Her phone, the neighbors, my father, none of it. Just her skin against mine, the undeniable truth of it. Her eyes searched mine, desperate, terrified, longing all at once. "Daniel," she whispered, and there was no resistance left in it. I leaned in before I could lose my nerve. The space between us disappeared, slow at first, then inevitable. Our lips didn't quite meet, just hovered, breaths colliding, as if the universe itself was holding its breath with us. When it finally happened, it wasn't neat or cinematic. It was clumsy, hesitant, like both of us were afraid we'd shatter if we pressed too hard. But it was real. God, it was real. When we pulled back, her forehead rested against mine. Her eyes stayed closed, her breath warm against my lips. "This can't be simple," she murmured. "It doesn't have to be," I said. "It just has to be ours." For the first time all night, she let out a real laugh, quiet, broken, but honest. A sound that felt like surrender. We didn't speak after that. We didn't need to. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was alive, charged, the kind that doesn't ask questions because it already knows the answers. And in that silence, holding on to each other like it was the only thing that made sense, I knew we weren't stopping. Not now. Not ever. The house was quiet again, but it didn't feel suffocating anymore. Not like before. The silence between us had shifted. It wasn't hiding anything now. It was full, alive, a silence you could rest inside. She still hadn't let go of my hand. I didn't think she realized it, but I did. Her grip was gentle, almost uncertain, as though she was waiting for me to pull away. I didn't. For a long time we just stood there, caught in a stillness that was heavier than words. Eventually she spoke. "You know this doesn't fix anything," she said softly, not looking at me. "I'm not trying to fix anything," I answered. "I just don't want to waste it." Her eyes lifted then, and I swear the way she looked at me felt like the ground shifting under my feet. She'd been afraid all night, afraid of being seen, of being caught, of repeating old mistakes. But for the first time, I saw something else break through, the wanting she couldn't hide anymore. "This shouldn't have happened," she whispered. "But it did." I squeezed her hand. "And you don't regret it?" The words landed between us, heavy and undeniable. She didn't argue. She didn't need to. Her silence was all the confirmation I'd ever need. I thought about everything she'd confessed, the shadow of my father, the weight of her past, the way she'd been trying so hard to stay untouched by this. And yet here we were. The truth was simple. We'd stepped across the line, and nothing would take us back. When she finally spoke again, her voice was steadier. "Then we keep this ours. No one else needs to know." "Not yet." It wasn't permission exactly, and it wasn't a promise. But it was enough. Enough to know that she wasn't sending me away, that she wasn't pretending anymore. I nodded. "Ours," I said quietly. Her lips curved, just slightly. The smallest smile, but one that carried the weight of everything we'd just lived through. She leaned closer, pressed her forehead to mine again, and for the first time that night, there was no hesitation in the way she breathed me in. Something had shifted inside both of us. For her, maybe it was laying down the regret she'd been carrying for years. For me, maybe it was finding the courage to stand in front of someone and not back down, no matter how impossible it seemed. We weren't perfect. We weren't safe. But we were real. And sometimes that's enough. Why Medium Star, did you enjoy the story? Red Heart, what kind of stories would you like to hear next? Romantic, suspenseful, or bittersweet? Backhand index pointing noun. Share your thoughts. I'd love to know which moments stayed with you the most.